Hey folks, it's Ken Woods here. Yeah, I woke up today feeling a little bit down, not like depressed, but a little down. I think it's common this time of year. It's November, days getting shorter in Wales, days are getting grayer and rainier for sure. We had a really nice summer this year, and that's all over and gone. So maybe the bad weather is even more of a shock. It's actually not too bad today. But yeah, a little bit down. And got me thinking about the whole idea of, music as a form of self-expression. One of the reasons I like to, spend some time with the guitar every day is that you can, you know, play whatever you feel should you so wish to. And sometimes it leaves you kind of like wondering, well, what do I feel? What do I want to play? And we don't, sometimes we don't find the expression to match the feeling all that readily. In other days, you find something musically, and that actually tells you what you were feeling. You maybe didn't realize you were a little anxious or something until you find yourself going in a certain direction when you're noodling and improving, which for me is an important part of playing these days. But, it's funny, a lot of us buy into the idea of music as a form of emotional, particularly emotional expression very early on. And it is absolutely the fact, but the reality being a musician is much more nuanced. My wife's a violinist. She's in a recording session today, recording the music of a relatively obscure British composer named Havigal Brian. He's kind of like, if you imagine sort of a cult indie filmmaker of the 1950s in America, that's, kind of Havigal Brian in the musical scene in Great Britain. And, so her job is to go in there and just, play the music as accurately and as well and enthusiastically as she can. She gets absolutely no choice about whether that music suits her mood or her state of mind whatsoever. And, so it is almost every day for orchestra musicians. They got to play what's in front of them and play it to the best of their ability. And sometimes the music that's in front of them, lifts their mood. Sometimes it moves them very deeply. And sometimes it's, it is just a job. This is a discipline, that all musicians have to learn. And I think it's one of the reasons that when we talk about how music education teaches life skills, one of the things that it does do is heightens your ability to be in touch with your emotions, but also trains you to be in control of your emotions. In other words, in order to do what a musician like Suzanne does, you've got to be able to set aside what you're feeling and focus on what the composer was feeling. Set aside what you want to express and focus on what the composer was wanting to express. But I wonder, like how much of an overcompensation have we made in the modern musical world, about giving musicians a chance to directly express themselves, in classical music, programs are set years in advance. Bands go on tour, they have to play the songs that the audience wants to hear, maybe things that they wrote and recorded, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, whether or not it suits their mood or not. Of course, we all have opportunities at home, we hope, to be more directly reflective of what we're thinking and feeling. But often, if you're working all day to make sound and make music and all of that, you may not find that getting a guitar out is necessarily the most effective way to wind down. It is for me, but not for everyone by any means. And it's so interesting because, on the one hand, as musicians, we can sublimate ourselves to the will of the conductor, the band leader, the composer, and say, we are going to be a vessel to express what they were feeling. And on the other hand, listeners sort of always have the immediate choice to pick whatever suits their state of mind. And so, one day they might, pick one of my songs. Another day they might pick somebody else's. They're completely free to do that whatever they want, basically. Whereas we're in a much tighter box. I wonder sometimes if that's entirely healthy. I had a conversation with some music society members who support some of the work I do with my orchestra here, and they were sort of encouraging me. Said, well, why are you guys doing this piece? It's not one that people know so well. Maybe do the other piece instead. And I said, well, this is a piece that the musicians of the orchestra have specifically asked to do, and that they really, really want to play. And they made the point that, well, why should we go to a concert that the musicians are playing just what they want to play? But in a way, I kind of think, isn't that part of the point? Not the whole point. We're also here to entertain and to provide a kind of pastoral outlet for people in their daily lives, to give them access to the music that they feel will scratch their particular human itch. But on the other hand, whatever happened to, Picasso's got a new show, let's go see what he's painted. Not, I asked Picasso to paint 600 cats and I hope he's done it, and I mean, so many artists in almost any genre, if you just said, Gustav Mahler's written a new symphony, or, Wayne Shorter is doing his first concert on the alto flute. I don't know, I'd be there. I'd be curious to see what they're doing. And, and I would give them not the benefit of the doubt, because this is not even doubt, but just the respect to say, okay, if you're playing it, I want to hear it. If you're written it, I want to hear it. I'm here for you to tell me through your instrument, through your musical ideas, what you're feeling. And that's a really hard thing to articulate to the general public, to sort of say, look, it's great that you've got Spotify and you can playlist yourself for every mood and be completely in control of the curation of your emotional existence through music. But, actually, your life might be richer and full of more sense of discovery and less sense of imprisonment and routine if you just open yourself up more to the unknown. And that also, maybe as human beings, we have a shared responsibility to listen to each other. So when someone comes to me and says, we'd really love it if you played this, I listen to them, and if I can incorporate it in a show, then I do. But I would hope that the same thing would apply, that I say, we really want to share this music with you, or just have a seat there, and me and the guys are just gonna see what we can come up with. And that people, we will listen to each other with, open ears and open hearts. And that sounds like a platitude, but it's a platitude that doesn't get, I think, lived as often as maybe it could be. So I'm going to go noodle a little bit on this beautiful guitar and try and make some sounds that suit my slightly melancholy mood. And I wish you all happy Thanksgiving, wherever you are.